I'm Jose.
I'm Leeann Lux.
And we are Two Most Wanted.
Well, here we are, once again, doing the thing.
Telling the story to the end.
We got stories, honey.
Bars, baby.
Bars. I have bars. I
Bars.
don't, actually. I'm not a rapper.
No, and you're sober.
I'm sober.
So there's no bars and there's no actual bars.
No kind of bars.
Nope.
No bars for me.
No, nada.
What fun. What fun do we have left?
What do you mean? Where are we going?
Not to a bar.
No, we discussed this many times. Not to a bar.
Today, we're actually going to cover one of my favorite topics because it evokes all of the emotions for me.
Let's say it together. Christianity. No.
It's sex.
Christianity.
Same thing. Just
Same
kidding.
Thing. It can be.
Depends on who you ask.
Hello.
We're doing the sex topic. I want to know, when did you discover the sex? When did you, like, as
sex.
a kid? As a kid, when were you like, did someone say, hey, let me tell you the stories of the birds and the bees?
Well, my parents never had that conversation with me of the birds and the bees. Like,
Because they're Latin.
Yeah, exactly. Like, to talk about or
Yep.
feelings, much less sex.
Yeah, no.
Absolutely not.
You just learn that you're not allowed to have it.
I think my mom still thinks I'm a virgin.
Yeah.
At 40.
As she should.
As she should.
As she should.
So
Good
who
for her.
cares? Good
Good
for her.
for her.
Good for her. Good for her. I come, I
We
see her
love that
tree.
for her.
We don't talk about sex. I drop off my laundry. I go home. Thank you.
I love that.
Love that for
Wholesome.
me. Wholesome.
So good.
So I've never had the conversation with the birds and the bees. I really can't. Okay, so this is weird because I've thought about this many times for years where I think I've always been a sexual person, even in my adolescence. So I don't know when my sexual awakening was. I do remember we touched this on the last episode. I think it was the last episode when we talked about The Little Mermaid.
Yes.
Which was a while ago. But anyway, King Triton, the Little Mermaid's dad, who is like basically that muscle daddy.
Who's Poseidon?
Oh, no, that's the actual Greek mythology of the god of the water or the ocean. That's Poseidon. Look at you.
Look at me knowing the real things.
Historically accurate is present in this room.
A plethora
Hello.
of useless information.
That
Go
is
on.
Lux.
Go on, King Triton.
And so I do remember that. I remember feeling like, who is that? I want to know more about him.
So that's like your gay awakening.
Gay awakening and also sexual because, well, I don't. Okay,
Yeah.
but that's weird though.
Could have been 2 in 1 for you?
Maybe, but the weird thing is I was, however old I was at that age, which I don't remember, maybe 6 or 7.
Okay.
So it's weird to think of it that way because...
I don't think that's weird. I think that
Really?
I think most people understand, not understand is a strong word. Most people know what they're attracted to pretty young. I shouldn't say most people. There are, especially lately, there's been this whole movement of like later in life gay, later in life lesbian, and I love that.
See,
But
I didn't...
a lot of people, I think, know when they're young that they're gay or straight.
I certainly knew when I was a kid. However, so there was King Triton. Then there was this, so my cousin, who's 12 years older, had this crazy collection of music. Like I'm talking about cassettes. And if you don't know what a cassette is, ask Jeeves. So he had a plethora of cassettes. And I remember there was one, and I think it's AC/DC. All you rockheads, let me know in the commentos. But the artwork was this almost like Mr. Olympia, like this bodybuilder, and he's holding the literal world on his shoulders.
Yeah,
and
I know
he
the
has
image.
and he has a plaque that I think says 1994, maybe 1980
On his
something,
chest?
like a plaque, like a chain with a plaque that says a date, which I'm assuming is when the album is from. I think it's AC/DC. I remember seeing that.
Yeah.
And grabbing it and holding on to it.
Like, ooh, I like this. I don't know why, but I like it.
But if you tie the two things together,
Sure.
King Triton, for those of you who don't know what he looked like a muscle daddy. Like his body was built. He had
Yeah.
a big old titties. I was gonna say bitties, but then I lost what
It was
bitties were.
peckalicious.
Num num num. And so did the artwork on that album. So that's at that age, around the
Yeah.
same time. And so obviously in that moment I knew that I was attracted to that.
Yeah, you're like, this is doing something for me.
But I didn't know what gay was until later on in life. So
Okay.
for example, had all those sentiments and sensations and things. Even had my first kiss with a boy around that age, and it's kind of, this is where I talk about that slutty part, because it wasn't like a kiss. It was a full-blown make-out session in the public, like, oh, I don't want to give specific because I don't know if this person is out. I don't know if this person is married.
No names.
No names, no descriptions.
Right.
Obviously, they might not be watching this. Okay, stop. Anyway, he was a childhood friend. Anyway, I don't know how he initiated the kiss, but I know that we started making out a lot. And at some point, we were in a public place, like in a laundry room, and outside of the laundry room, like outside of this space, we were just making out hardcore. I remember
Yeah.
this as vividly as a kid.
And you're like, how old?
I must have been 7.
Yeah.
Like really young. In my head,
A
that's
little
really
kid.
young.
Yeah, you're a little kid.
And so, again, I didn't think anything of it like, oh, I'm gay. Oh, what does this mean? Until I was about 10 or 11. And this is also vivid in my mind. I was in grade school, elementary school, and we were in the yard, lunch break where you go outside and play. And my friends were making fun of this kid and called him a faggot. And I had never heard that word before. And so I asked, and they said, yeah, faggot is basically a guy who likes a guy, they're homosexual, this, that, and the other. And I will never forget, this entire internal conversation happened where it's almost like the world had stopped. Everything was in slow motion. I was just like, holy shit, that's me. Am I a faggot? What does that mean? I don't want to be this.
Oh.
Because they said, they go straight to hell. The whole Christianity conversation. And I wasn't religious. I didn't grow up in a strictly religious household. We were Catholic.
Yeah.
And so Catholics to me are the ones who kind of are the easiest of the religions. There's a lot of, yes, there's guilt involved, but there's also a lot of gray area.
Yeah.
And so I remember thinking, I don't want to go to hell. Like, I don't want to go to hell. So I immediately asked, are they born this way? They're like, no, apparently they choose to be this way. And I was, in my mind, in that moment, I was like, all right, I'm not going to be gay. I'm not going to be gay. I'm not going to be any of these things. I don't want to go to hell. This was at 10. And pretty much from 10 to the end of high school. So from 10 to 17, graduated late. I tried to be straight. And it never adhered.
Yeah.
Never adhered. It was this constant battle of suppressing sensations, emotions, and also trying to be straight. Like I had no issue talking to girls.
Like a little bit of what we now have the verbiage for, like comfet. Like,
no, I've never heard that word. What? Where?
Comfet. It's been around for a while. I only learned it like a year ago. Comfet. I believe it's spelled
like confetti,
COMPHET. I think it's spelled comfet. I have to like write things down to spell them. But it's compulsory.
Oh, now you got me saying
I know,
wrong.
compulsory heterosexuality. You keep like trying to be straight.
Holy shit.
Like you keep believing like you're supposed to be straight,
Yeah.
so you keep trying to be straight.
Get on my head.
That's another thing that I'm probably going to have to redefine later, but look it up, okay? Because it's new to me too.
Do your homework.
Do your homework. Look it up. It's
You're an
new to
adult.
me as well. And I learned about it because of the amount that I realized I had experienced, but
Interesting. Well, that's
comfet.
That's literally okay. So I was coming fetting everywhere, and that was that from junior high school all the way up to the end of high. I came out to Sabrina, our friend who brought us together.
Yeah.
She was the first person I came out to.
Oh my God, I love that.
And it was so casual. We were on the phone, because back in the day we would talk on the phone all the time for hours. Insanity.
I know. I mean, we really had very little to do on the internet. So yeah.
Now you call me in case only of an emergency.
If someone calls me, I'm like, do I have the capacity for this? Because it's either an emergency or
Oh, interesting.
or literally they just want to bullshit. And I'm like, if it's an emergency, they can text me.
No one calls me to bullshit. I don't encourage it.
No,
but think if you do. If you want
me.
to, sure. Text me first. Send me a text.
You're
like,
supposed
hey,
to text first.
do you want to talk? And I'm like, yeah, sure.
You have to knock before you walk in. You're supposed to text.
What if I'm on the couch?
No.
Doing couch things.
Couch time? Absolutely not.
Insane.
My phone rings. I look at it like it's crazy. I fling it across the room.
Yeah, it's like a cat. And
okay.
And so Sabrina was the first person I came out to.
I love
and
that.
And the way they came out was we were talking about potential spouses and things. And I don't think she had come out at that time. Well, maybe she was. Maybe she was bi. I don't remember. I don't want to label you, Sabrina. Sorry. I love you, but I don't remember. And
we won't tell your story.
Yeah, no, not on here. And she asked, what's your potential like person? And I said, oh, a girl would be X, Y, and Z. And then I said, a guy would be X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. And she just like, oh, okay. And that was it.
That was it. Yeah, very matter of fact.
But that was after high school. So I was never out in high school, which in hindsight is such a bummer, because I think I would have enjoyed high school more than I did.
Yeah.
Had I been out.
Remember that we live in New York. We went to school in New York. We grew up here. And you still dealt with bullies, essentially. People who call someone a faggot.
May I say?
Even in the most liberal fucking city in the world.
I have to say, I have been bullied, but never for being gay. Never.
Bravo. That's amazing.
Bravo. But I was bullied for everything else.
But you had to still hear it from other people.
No.
Like that kid that you said someone was calling him a faggot and saying these things.
Oh yeah, I would see that. I would definitely see
that.
Like
it existed, even
100%.
in some of even in being in one of the most liberal places ever, it still existed.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that you've never been bullied for it. That's
never
amazing.
been. It's odd because that's a very staple of coming out for a lot of gay men.
Yeah.
Is the bullying, right? Mm-hmm. And I've never experienced bullying for that. I've experienced bullying for other things.
Sure.
Being short, being an exotic looking animal.
So what are you?
Yeah. I've been, oh my God, when I was
question.
a kid. So I have a skin condition, eczema. For those of you who don't know what eczema is basically an oversensitivity of the skin. It comes in variables, and basically
It's dryness.
It's a lot of dryness. And when you're a kid, it's very extreme because you can't use steroid-based medication.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of ride it out. So long story short, my skin was not the best as a child. Like it would crack and bleed and all the things. And the kids would make fun of me.
Of course.
And I'm talking about like harsh shit. Like kids are just, they have no filter. They have no understanding.
Nope, they're just
and they would be like, don't talk to him. He has AIDS.
Wow.
He has cancer. He has AIDS. This, that, and the. I remember being teased for that.
That's awful.
Never a cocksucker.
Yeah, that's
but for
so
having
funny.
an actual disease.
Just regular skin
Just
condition
regular
that
skin
you're born.
decision.
Like, what the fuck?
So that is. But
I feel
but
that
even
though.
then, that's really beguiling in a way because being teased for two things that essentially I had no control over.
Yeah.
I was born with a skin condition. I was born also a homosexual. So, but I guess in life they chose the lesser. I don't know. In hindsight, had I been teased for being gay, would that been different? It still hurts. Words hurt.
Right.
Facts are facts. But yeah, that was so my sexual awakening. I guess we can say it was because I can't recall. Like the feelings have always been there.
Right.
I don't recall an instance, maybe the King Triton thing, the Little Mermaid, where I was
Probably.
like, oh, I feel something there.
And like coming out to your parents was okay. That developed over time.
That was weird for me because I came out to Sabrina, first person ever, at 16. Mm-hmm. Shortly after that, I came out to my friends, but it was never a spectacle. It wasn't like, I have to sit you guys down. It was more like just in conversation.
Yeah. They're like, all right.
Yeah, exactly. And so I had my first relationship with Aaron when I was 20. Yeah, 20 into entering 21. And
did your parents know?
no.
Okay.
They did not. And I'm an only child, so it's not like there's other things that I can distract them with.
Right. I feel
So,
that. Yep.
but like we discussed earlier, I don't lie. I deny.
Right.
And so,
Gay? Who's gay?
not me. Where, Chico? Where is she? Let's crucify her.
No, yo.
Yo no nunca le coxsaki. Not in this household, Mary. Not in this household.
my God.
So my parents never were the type to ask me, when are you getting married? Do you have a girlfriend? None
Right.
of that. And I think because in my family we have, I guess, what would you call it? Someone who's clearly gay in the family, but no one talks about it. Everyone knows, but no one talks about it.
Sure.
So I have that in my family on my. Oh my God! No. Okay, we're gonna edit that. Don't want to out anybody who's not out.
Correct.
But I have that in my family, so I don't know if that plays a factor. Maybe on some level it does for them not to ask me, because when I think back, okay, well now I'm getting ahead of myself, but I'll explain that in a moment in my head. Sorry, I'm talking to all the voices in my head. So my parents never asked me, are you dating, anything like that. But if and when they would, I would say, oh, I'm too busy. I'm in school. Like, I'm going to fictitious college.
Right. Right.
Duh.
I'm pretending to go to college. I
Duh.
don't have time to date
Yeah.
anyone.
Which, while I was going to fake college, I was actually trying to navigate my acting career. Like, how do I get it off the ground? Because
Right.
I had no way in. So I had to navigate that. So I was busy with that. I was busy with life. I was busy just enjoying, because high school was really hard academically for me. I was never a really good student.
Oh,
But in order
same.
to graduate on time, I had to make up 2 years, no, 1 year that I got left back that year. I had to make that up on my senior year. So I was going to school from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. every single day for an entire scholastic year. So by the time I was done, I was like, I don't want to read a book. I don't want to take a train. I don't want to take a plane. Like, I just
Right.
want to relax, to which I did. And I went to work that immediately
Yeah.
right after high school to make money. And so, that being said, I always denied, never lied about my sexuality in any kind of way. And not once did anyone ever come out to me and my family and ask me flat out, are you gay?
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I came out to my parents in my mid-20s, actually, after my second relationship. And even then, when I was in my second relationship, my parents had no idea. Primarily my mom, because my
Yeah.
dad is a typical alpha male Hispanic dad, doesn't care.
Right.
Has nothing. It's like, you're alive, right? Bet. That's cool.
Well,
My
that's
mom
amazing, because some
was
people
nosy.
would freaking, some dads like that are alpha like that they want the son that they
when
can
I
go out
came-
and play
when I
hard
came
sports
out-
with. And
when
you're
I
like,
came out to my
what is sports?
Dad was a tense story. So first I came out to my mom.
Okay.
No, lies. I came out to my dad.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
Dad first.
Dad first. So when I was in my second relationship, again, like I said earlier, or in the last, one of these episodes, when I said I'm a horrible liar, this was evidence of that. So when I was when I was in my second relationship, he would often stay at my apartment, and I believe it was Halloween. My mom had always been this overprotective mother, rightfully so, unconditional love,
Sure.
all the things. But she called every night, and she lived 2 blocks away from me before she moved. So she would call me every night to make sure that I got home okay.
Yep.
And it was just a call-in. It wasn't like she wanted to have a conversation.
My
She
mother
just
still
wanted me
does
to check
this.
in. My mom still does.
At 40.
100%.
still does
Mine still does. And I'm like, Ma, I'm working.
Drives me
We're in 2
insane.
different time zones. I need you to relax. And so...
But we love them.
We love them. Love you, Mom. So this was Halloween, and I had gone out. And the boyfriend, who I won't name just for... was working, and he was so exhausted. He came home here. He
Yeah.
wasn't living with him, but he'd stay over
Yeah.
90% of the time. So anyway, I'm out with my friends, deny my mom's phone calls, and then he calls me and he's like, your mom is here? Because my mom had keys to my apartment.
Oh no. Dun dun dun.
And I'm like, what did she say? She's like, I don't know. She just started asking me a lot of questions, and she was talking Spanish, and I don't speak Spanish, and I don't know. I'm outside. Like, I left.
Oh my God.
Because he was sleeping.
Yeah.
He had come home and knocked out while
Yeah.
I was partying. And I'm just like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I come home. So keep in mind, it was this apartment.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, there was no furniture here. So it's just
Because you were like
nothing.
22.
Yeah, it was
or whatever.
nothing.
Yeah.
None. But she grabs a chair,
Mm-hmm.
just to give you an idea of where I get it from.
Uh-huh.
She's sitting, for those who, I have a very long living room. She's sitting in the corner, not even the corner, in the middle of the living room,
Yeah.
in the dark,
Oh God.
waiting for me to come home, to which I did. So when you open the door,
I picture this.
the door opens,
Like
the light
very
just shines.
mafioso.
Very, very that. I'm like, my mom's going to kill me. This is it. And so exactly that happens. I come in, she's sitting in the literal dark, and I'm like, hi. She's like, we need to talk. I'm like, clearly, because I think I'm going to die. So, and we start talking. She's like, who is he? That's when I came up with the lie.
A murderer, obviously.
He
That's
came
some
to,
snarky shit I would say to my mom. Obviously, they were robbing me.
while I wasn't here, my mattress. They were trying to rob my mattress. And I simply said, oh, he's a friend. He's staying over. He's leaving for the weekend. Because she was like, why is he sleeping in your bed? I'm like, because it's the only thing I have to sleep in. And he was napping
just
while I was
omitting,
out.
that's all. You're not
Completely-
lying. You're just omitting.
Omitting. And we left it at that. And then shortly after that relationship ended, I realized I need to come out because I can't lie. I don't want to lie.
No, it's unnecessary.
So at the time, she had gone to vacation. She had gone back home to southern Mexico. This was around Christmas time. And she was supposed to... so it was just me and my dad. Now, mind you, me and my dad at the time had no kind of relationship in the sense of father and dad. This was our
Father and son.
father and son.
Yeah.
But I always considered him my father. He was always a great provider.
Sure.
There was never a time in my life where I didn't have a roof over my head, food on the
Sure,
table,
but you
clothes on
guys
my
didn't
back.
just like have hangout buddy time.
Never. My
Yeah.
dad taught me how to use fork and a knife and utensils properly because he was
Yeah.
very like, you need to
Proper.
know how to use that.
Classy guy.
Classy man. And I love you, Dad.
Mm-hmm.
And so he would teach me stuff like that, but we never had like...
You never broed out.
Never. So it was kind of odd for me to go visit him every week because that's what I would normally do with my parents since they live close by. But normally my mom was there that I would talk to and talk about her day and all these other things. And my dad, we didn't have that kind of relationship at the time. So it was awkward to go to his place, have dinner, watch television, and not say a word to each other within 4 hours.
Yeah.
So that was essentially what was happening while my mom was away. And in that time, I was dealing with a lot of anxiety. Panic attacks, like things like that. And at the time, I didn't understand where it was coming from. And granted, I had gone to a therapist, and a lot of it had stemmed from a September 11th episode for another day. And so I was very restless. It was eating me up inside, and that's when I decided to come out. And at the time, I was in college. So
In real college?
in real college,
Okay,
in actual
good.
real college. And because I decided... because at that point...
You were done lying about being in college.
Yeah, because at that point, it was eating me up, the guilt of having lied to them that I had actually gone to college. And I was
Yeah.
like, you know what? I should actually go. And so I
Fair.
did. And so as a student at the time...
You're just trying to come clean about everything.
Everything. I was just... turning
Unburden yourself.
Yeah. I was entering almost that quarter crisis.
Yeah.
And I was like, yep, I feel that crisis. And it's
you
a quarter.
had that convo with your dad.
Oh, well, the convo happened. So I'm strategizing how to do it. So I speak Spanish, but at the time, I wasn't really well versed. In other words, I couldn't really articulate what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
So I thought the best way to do it was write it out as an essay. I
Okay.
figured use the topic, because if I remember my final exam for one of my classes was writing about a pivotal time in your life and how that changed you and how that continues to evolve. And I decided in my actual homework to talk about the idea of coming out.
Okay.
So I thought, why not just translate that into Spanish? And I came up with this ploy, because I love me a good ploy, to ask my dad to proofread it for me. It's in Spanish. I need you to proofread it and tell me what you think.
Oh, wow.
I know.
That's honestly scarier to me.
Is it? Why?
To me, I don't know why. Because I have to watch them read this.
Which I did, and it was scary.
That's terrifying.
When I described to you how tense this was,
Yeah.
So I remember it was double-sided, double space, 2 pages. I remember exactly where I essentially come out, quote unquote. And it was, so we go to a typical dinner, right, at his place, silent dinner, watching silent movie.
Yeah.
And I decided to hand him the paper, gave him the whole spiel. Can you proofread this for me? He's like, sure. Now, mind you, my dad, to draw you a picture of my dad, I am 5'6". My dad is 5'5".
Yeah.
And he's
Adorable.
a stocky fucking dude. Like, this guy looks
He's a built
like...
dude.
Yeah, he looks like Santa Claus. and so he has... he's an intimidating dude. He's a silent, deadly type, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm handing him my paper, and he starts reading it, because I gave it to him during a commercial break. And I figured he'd be done by the commercial. It's double-sided, like, it's not a lot. And it's in Spanish. And he went to college, so it's not like, this is hard
easy
for him. But he decides to stop after the commercial break, watches the movie.
Stop.
Long story short, for a 2-hour movie, every commercial break, he'd read a little bit of it.
Stop it.
And I am just like, I was scared because, again, like you said, and you prefaced at the very beginning, because he's a Latin dad, they're very alpha male-ish.
Yeah.
He comes from one of 3. And
It could have gone either way.
I'm
It
just
really
like,
could have.
am I going to literally have to fight my dad? Like, there was a
It could
part of
go
me
either
that
way.
I really thought like it would go down. We're in this
Terrifying.
place by ourselves.
Yeah.
My dad...
He might read this and just lose his fucking shit.
lose it all.
Yeah.
Lose it all. Because my dad is, the one that is a high... I don't know how to function. I don't know how to label him in terms of his...
Demeanor?
Not demeanor, drinking habits.
Okay. Okay.
I don't want to label him...
He could have been just a little toasty, and it could have gone either way.
Well, not just that. It's just that he has a history of... I don't want to call him an alcoholic, because I don't know if he is an alcoholic, because I've tested this theory, and this is this might be go for another episode, but I don't know how to label him in there. But let's just say he's in a gray area of that place. So growing up in that household and understanding how he is when he's on the bottle terrified me as a child.
Right.
Truly terrified me as a child. So as an adult, granted, he wasn't drinking when we were having this conversation, but I thought, I've seen him snap.
Right. You know his range of emotions, and you're hoping that this doesn't strike
And
a
I
high
literally
one.
make sure that I had range between us.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, he ain't swinging at me.
Yeah.
So the tense and even what added more to that to that scary tenseness was that when he would read it, there was no emotion whatsoever in his face.
Yeah.
So he's reading this silently to himself. By the end of the movie, he finished the 2-page my report. No emotion whatsoever. No reaction.
Yeah.
To the point where I had to ask him, like, so what did you think? He's like, it's good. And I was like, and? He's like, no, it's good.
Is he reading this as fiction or nonfiction?
I'm like, is this a romantic novel? I don't know. I'm just like, did you read everything? He's like, yeah, I did. It's like,
you're like, do you know this is about me?
I was like, do you? And so essentially I came out to him in a way that I didn't anticipate, which was like, did you read the me coming out part?
Where I'm gay?
Yeah. And he's like, yeah, I read it. I was like, and? It's like, it's your life, not mine.
Oh my God.
And I was like, so...
Fair.
And mind you...
not what I was expecting.
Mind you, he's still staring at the TV. Like, I'm talking, the way I'm turning to you.
Yeah.
And he's looking at another direction.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, so are we cool? He's like, your life, not mine. I'm fine with that.
Great. I mean, great.
Okay. I was like, I'll take it.
Absolutely.
We
That's
didn't
better
fight. There
than
was no... yeah. And then I asked him, like, so the reason why all this happened, because I wanted to come out to my mom first. Uh-huh. My mom was in Mexico at the time, as I said. She broke her fucking toe while she was there.
Oh, no.
Going up a fucking sidewalk. That delayed her from coming back. So that meant I had to spend another month with my dad, like doing these weird exchanges.
Right.
And that's what forced me to come out to him first.
Right.
So I say to him, I'm like, so I'm going to say this to mom. what do you think? He was like, oof, good luck with that.
Why are Latin moms so difficult, bro?
Bitch.
Why?
Bitch.
We need a sip. Me and my exciting water in this glorious mug.
Owlie, say hi, Owlie. So, I think the time frame between coming out to my dad and then to my mom, I don't recall. I think it was maybe a couple months. Oh, yeah. It was that same year because this happened in the winter of that year. And I didn't come out to her until October. So, like, almost the end of the year. Because I was prepping. I had spoken to my cousin, and I was like, what do you think? And he was like, I wouldn't do it. He was like, don't do it. Don't. You could kill her.
Oh, my God.
You could kill her. Because I'm the only one. But, like, to give you better context, not only am I the only child, I'm the only grandchild on my dad's side. Mind you, my dad has 2 other siblings, but none of them ever got married. They have no... They don't want it. So I'm the only grandchild, which is great. Inheritance. Kidding. And so... But again, I never got that pressure from my dad's side of just like, when? None. So
you finally do come out to your mom.
In October. So I decided to come out to her on my birthday.
Oh, boy.
Which I thought, and it was my 25th birthday.
Okay.
So 25th birthday, come out to her. Same concept, a letter.
Yeah.
Same fucking letter that I gave my dad. So my mom comes home, or rather to my apartment, comes over, and I'm just nervous because, again, the built-up anticipation of, like, you're going to kill your mom. And I'm like, awesome. Yay, my mom. And so I'm having that anticipation in my heart. And she comes over. It felt like a sitcom in the way that, you know, when a character is about to give someone bad news, yet that character that's going to receive that bad news comes in with like the most positive outlook.
Yeah.
Like just suddenly remembers like, oh my God, I just found like $1,000 on the floor.
Isn't it great? And you're like, I'm about to rain on your parade.
Yep. And so she tells me when she comes in, she's like, oh, it's your birthday. And I'm like, thanks. She's like, you know, this is a full circle. And I was like, full circle? What does she mean by that? She's like, well, today, this is the exact day that you were born. I'm like, yeah, it's my birthday. Huh. She's like, no, like literally, because today, that day was a Friday. So it's Friday, the 26th.
The accurate year,
right,
correct.
Of October. As I'm talking to her and I'm about to give her the letter, she's like, it's the same time. It's 1:15 in the afternoon.
Oh, boy.
So like 1:15 on that Friday of October 26th. And I'm coming out to her. So I was like, oh my God, this is kind of a weird, odd
coincidence.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
But also I'm like, it's also the day that I murdered my mother. Right. So, I mean, someone's going to die, but someone's also going to be reborn. How
poetic.
Very poetic. So I give her the letter. And I'm like, I need you to read this, proofread it, homework, blah, 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 blah. But I'm going to give you your space. So I went to my bedroom. So I leave her in the kitchen. And it's silent. She's reading it. I'm honestly like, all these negative thoughts are just entering my mind of just like I didn't know what to react from her in the sense of, is she going to start breaking dishes? Is she going to start yelling out my name? Or am I just going to hear a body thud on the fucking floor?
Oh my God.
So,
what happened?
And then it felt like the longest time. It felt like 15 to 20 minutes. I was timing it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, love my mom to pieces. Does not have a college education, has a high school education. So I'm like, okay, maybe she's having a hard time reading this. But it's also Spanish.
So she should be all right?
She should be fine.
Yeah.
But like, why is it taking 20 minutes?
Oh,
like,
boy.
is she two watching a movie and then watching it during commercial breaks? Like, what is she doing?
Fuck?
So after that long awaited time, I hear footsteps. And I'm like, oh my God, she's coming with a knife. She's going to come kill me. Like, what's going to happen? So at least she's walking.
Yeah.
She enters the room. And she has the paper in hand, and I'm like, oh my God, what is she going to say? What is she going to say? What is she going to say? Oh my God, I'm being disowned. She's like, I'm a little confused. I was like, about what? She's like, okay, look at this. And she shows me the paper. She's like, this sentence doesn't make sense. And I'm like, okay, what about it? She's like, I think grammatically it just doesn't make sense. I don't think, so she's correcting my work. And she's like, this doesn't make sense. I think you should move this here. I shortened this part. This is nice. I like the way this sounds. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, but you did a great job.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. I'm like, did you read this?
Did you miss the part where I'm gay?
And she's like, what? Yeah, I read it. I understand it. And I'm like, but did you? So I essentially came out to my mom too, the same way I came out to my dad. I was like, what the fuck was the point of this fucking essay?
Right.
Like, aside from clearly my Spanish is horrible. So I'm like, did you read the part where I come out when I'm gay? And she was like, what? When did you, where? And so she starts going
Stop
through.
it.
She's like, where do you say you're gay? Show me.
Stop.
And I'm like, what is happening right now?
The
like,
whole
what
essay
is
didn't work.
over her fucking head?
Oh
Over her fucking head.
That's why I would have been terrified to do it in writing, because I feel like they wouldn't really get it.
I have way too many expectations of people.
You
Apparently,
had high expectations.
highest.
I
was
it.
high.
I love it though. I love that
high.
you wrote it out.
So I end up coming out to her again, and now she's confused. Now she's like, "When were you gay?" And I'm like,
All the time.
"Oh my! How do you?"
24/7.
And
Gay right now.
And the crazier thing was that I asked her, like, how did you not know? Like, the first boyfriend,
Like, do you see
Aaron.
this hair?
Hello. Movement, baby. Movement. Se mueve. Se mueve. How did you... She had her speculations about Aaron, my first boyfriend. Mm-hmm. Because we to her, we were way too close, which we were because we were dating.
She knew. She did the typical Latin mom denial thing.
She was so pressed and confused, and she was like, what does this mean? And I prefaced, I was like, I'm still the same person. Like, I'm still the same person you raised. I just love differently. That's really the difference. I am still... Because I think she, on some level, had that fear of... And the same, actually, weirdly enough, ironically enough, the same fear that I had in high school in that, what do you call it? Comfest thing? What did you say? Comfet, there. During that period of my life where I was coming in the fetting, that I had a fear that I was going to become a stereotype. Like a walking, living stereotype.
Right.
Regardless of what that was, I was afraid of what was to come.
Yeah.
And she had that same fear. So I had to assure her that I was still the same person. The only slight difference in my life was the person that I would marry would be a man.
Yeah.
That's the only difference. Everything else about me is entirely the same.
And what was her response?
And it gave her some comfort. And
You gave her some understanding.
Some
context. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And since then, because I haven't dated ever since, she's never met any other potentials. It was weird. I think I told her, I came clean to her about maybe 3 years ago.
Yeah.
When I told her about Robert, the second boyfriend.
Right.
And I was like, oh yeah, he was my boy. When I told her about Aaron, I was like, Aaron's my first boyfriend. She's like, I knew it. And I was like, well, I didn't also make a hard effort to hide it.
Right.
And then I was like,
was
and also
denial,
the second boyfriend was
Also
also
a
a
boyfriend,
boyfriend. And she was like, and so now when, now that a lot of my cousins around my age are having children. So I feel a little left behind because I'm kind of the oldest of my cousins on my dad's side.
Sure.
And they all have kids. And it really does break my heart to see my aunts being grandmothers now.
Right.
And the joy that brings, and knowing that I haven't given that to my
Your
mom
parents
yet.
want to be grandparents.
I can see it. And I want to do that too. It's not like I'm doing it for them. I
Sure.
too also want kids. I know that's insane. But I do. And I would love to do that to give that to my mom, to give her that happiness.
Right.
And so she'll ask me, how's that going? And I'm like, I haven't met anybody. She's like, well, don't settle for bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, I want somebody who will take great care of you.
Yeah.
And
that's good. So your parents are supportive.
She is, but sometimes she forgets.
Sure.
She'll be like, so when will she arrive? And I'm like, who's she? And I'm like, oh, you mean he? And then she's like, So it's she forgets sometimes, but
right.
it's a very interesting how
dynamic.
I come out to my dad's side of the family. I think all of my family now knows. and yet there is this undertone of not really discussing it, not really talking about it until the day that I show up with or introduce them to someone.
Yeah.
I think it'll really
Solidify it.
Yeah, for
That makes
sure.
sense.
For sure. So yeah, so that's I think that answers all of your questions.
That is that you hit the topics. The
Oh, man.
sexual
Sorry that was so
awakening, gay
long-winded.
awakening, the coming out.
Yeah.
Man, okay, starting from jump. I think mine might be a little bit shorter. Mine might be shorter, but just but all over the place because of I was very young when I discovered sex. I was 8 and I got into my dad's VHS porn tapes, and that was my sex discovery.
Porn tapes.
Just Playboy. What else? There was like Playboy videos. I can't remember the names of these things because it was VHS. I wasn't
I mean, there must have
paying
been a
attention.
plethora.
I could like barely read. You know what I mean? I just knew how to put. I knew how to put my cartoon VHS tapes into.
How did you find? Did he hid them or?
They were hid and in a child lock situation
So you
in their
broke in?
bedroom, and me being an only child and being left alone. You know, in the 90s, we were left alone a lot.
We'll remember.
I mean, once I was 8, I was old enough to open the fridge and get a Yoo-hoo or a juice box or a snack pack or whatever that. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I could. Being 8 in New York City in the 90s, you could take care of yourself.
You
pretty
had
much.
to.
You were
Mom
a
and Dad
latchkey
had to
kid.
work.
Right. You were fine.
Yeah.
So, but if I was alone, I wasn't alone for that long, but long enough to find myself into some trouble, you know?
When
and
you're, the
So I
world is
got into this
oyster.
little childproof cabinet and pulled out a VHS tape. I'm like, these aren't cartoons. And I remember like the girls on the cover being, because remember the 90s, giant silicone fake boobs, big bleach blonde hair, teeny tiny waist, and just being like, whoa, like, is this what I'm going to look like when I grow up?
Can I just very quickly,
Uh-huh.
because we're talking on the topic of that, my neighbor when I was a kid, around 7, 8, same age.
Yeah.
He had a massive collection of porn that would be like around his bed. And when we would go watch, me and my friend Tiffany, hi Tiff, I don't know where you at. Anyway, I would see them. And I
Yeah.
remember the cover art because it was,
That
it had
cover
that
art.
weird,
Yeah.
like it was like this thick. It was like as thick as like a book.
Yeah.
The cover. And I remember seeing the guys on it. And maybe it was his fetish or something, but it was like gangbang.
Yeah.
And all these guys were fucking hung, dude. They were just like,
Okay. See, I didn't. Yeah.
I remember thinking, how do they walk around with that? Like, where do they put that? Am I going to have that?
I know.
Like, remember,
Am I supposed to be like that?
I remember being scared because it was so
Yeah.
exaggerated, so kind of similar to you, like looking at those bodies and you're just like,
looking at
is
these
this gonna be
women.
me?
I mean, they all basically were molded after Pamela Anderson, who was like the sex bomb, sex icon of the 90s, you know?
Truly, though.
And Baywatch. And I remember like watching Baywatch, you know what I
For
mean?
the girls, I watch it for the guys.
I didn't know who I was watching it for. I was just like
Oh,
amazed by like big breasts. And I, you know, again, this is like when I'm 8, I discover these porns and I'm watching them whenever I can all the time. Then illegal cable. It was really easy to like break your
Playboy
cable
Channel.
box and Playboy Channel. Then forget it. When I discovered Spice Channel, I was just like, because now the bodies got a little more natural, more olive toned, darker hair, darker eyes. I was fascinated by these women. And it's funny because I thought that the guys looked interesting because I'd never seen like dick like that in real life. I thought they looked interesting, but clearly my dad was real focused on women because a lot of the content in the house was just like women, and it was like girl, and if there was a guy involved, like you literally just saw the penetration. There was really
Right.
no like guy body to really stare at.
Well, I feel like that's very typical of straight porn.
It is
no?
very typical of straight porn, but there wasn't any gangbang. There wasn't any things like that.
I
It was
see.
mostly like girl stuff.
Well,
stuff
interesting
like that.
enough, when going back to seeing the cart VHS thingies,
Mm-hmm.
we never actually watched the porn. I would just see the box,
The art.
and just like that because
And be like,
it always
whoa.
had like screenshots of what I guess you would see.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's very
So that was just me discovering, like, is this sex, you know? And then at one point asking my parents, like, they would be like covering my eyes if we were all watching a movie and there was like an intimate scene. And I was kind of like, what are they doing? Like, what do people do? Like, what do adults do? I started asking a lot of questions by like 9 or 10. And my parents really tried to have the literal birds and bees conversation with me.
Together or separately?
I'm trying to remember. I think it was my dad. My mom was too weird about these things. I think it was my dad trying to explain. And this is where I'm like, why did no one notice that I was definitely like on the spectrum on some level? Because they tried to explain how the birds and the bees mate. My takeaway was that birds mated with bees. And that's how they made babies.
And that's how you're bi.
It didn't make any sense to me. I was like, right. So what's on the porn though? Because that's what I'm trying to find out. Like, how do I get to that level? I don't know.
Do I have to bypass the bees
and birds
first?
make more birds and bees. I'm so confused. Like, it did not register with me whatsoever. I just like nodded and smiled, and they were like, "And you're gonna wait till you're an adult and you're in love." And I was like, and I was like, "Yeah." Absolutely not. Like 10 years old being like bullshit and then walking away from that conversation and trying to find more porn.
First of all, the visual of birds mating with bees is the most horrific thing I've ever visualized in my mind.
And it
So
didn't
thank
make
you
any
for
sense
that.
to me. I was like, so do they just stab the bird? I'm
stop
so
it.
confused.
Oh, no,
This was
that's
what I
horrible.
thought. I was like, well, animals are weird. But back to that porn I was watching.
Yeah.
My
Like
poor
she's on
brain
all
was
fours.
not-
Why is she all? Is she a bee?
Right.
why?
So is she like the bird or the bee? My brain couldn't handle that conversation. I worked in visuals and I could understand porn. I could not understand this story that they were trying to give me.
Did you ever bring up any of the porn?
No, I never told them that I got into that. But,
But do they still not know to this day?
No, they don't know. They don't know. But like, and God bless my dad, may he rest in peace. He passed when I was 25. But it was thanks to his wonderful collection that I learned so much. So yeah, about
you said
sex.
you would watch it,
I would watch these
right?
tapes and I would rewind them back to whatever point they were at when I found them and put them back exactly in the
All right,
same
super
place.
spy.
I was super spy because I was super into this shit. This is my favorite thing to do. Like when I stopped doing ballet after school or whatever, I was like, ooh, if I get home early, I'll have like a full hour before anyone comes home and I can go home and watch porn. Like,
Oh, wow.
I was obsessed. I was
That's-
obsessed. I was definitely a highly sexual kid, which is terrifying to think about now that kids can be like
Same.
that. But I was, I
Same,
was
yeah.
curious as hell. Even in school, like in grade school, all the kids were kind of like not having sex, but like fucking around, getting to know it, flirting. This is now when
getting to know their bodies.
This is now
in a
at
way.
like, let's say 12, 13,
Like tween.
going to school, sitting next to like a boy that I had a crush on and him putting like his hand on my knee and then sliding it up a little, I'm wearing jeans. It wasn't that crazy, but he's like sliding his hand up. And then it got to the point where I took his hand and slid it up further. Like we were just flirting and just, and it, to the point where like, we'd be sitting in assembly and like putting our hands in between each other's legs while we're watching a movie because it's
100.
dark and
Yeah.
like playing around. I mean, there were times I can honestly say that before I was even 14, I was finding a way to like get off in school. Like it was crazy how
Yeah.
sexual we were
Yeah.
is so disturbing, and I'm so glad that I don't have kids for this reason.
Well,
'Cause
isn't it-
they're just, especially in those teen years, you're
But
like the
that's when-
horniest person ever.
I was just about to say, like that's where your hormones just happen. Like
and
that's when
mine
it
were
happens.
raging.
Same.
And so
yeah.
there were definitely these times when it comes to like my gay awakening. There were times in school where like the popular girl, the popular girls, all the guys were always looking at them. They developed early. They had boobs earlier than the rest of us did. And a lot of the girls would be mean to them. They were jealous of them. And I would try to like join in on those conversations, but I didn't feel the same. They'd be like, so and so, is just so conceited because she has like a C cup now, so she thinks she's all that. And I was like, yeah, she totally thinks she's all that, like rolling my eyes. And I'm like, God, I want to be her fucking bra. Like, I don't even know why. I don't even know why. Like, but I didn't realize that meant I was bi. You know what I mean?
Right.
It didn't dawn on me. I was just like, why am I so obsessed with this girl's boobs? Like, I just want to stare at them every time she's in the front of the class. And like, I couldn't concentrate,
But you wouldn't see even a glimpse of that in your when you would watch porn, girl on girl?
Yes, but it's funny because I just wasn't attracted to the girls I was watching in porn. I was also just way more fascinated by the act.
Right.
But you have to remember, when I saw the porn for the first time, I was like 8, 9 years old. These women were like 25, probably, like 20, 25. They were much older and very much a specific type, and they were not a type that existed in my neighborhood, in my Spanish neighborhood whatsoever. The girls I was looking at in school were like Spanish girls who had developed curves, much younger. And I was just like, like, they're beautiful. I want to be beautiful. So it was a combination of, I want to look like that too, but also, why am I so obsessed with just staring at her? She's so pretty, So I thought maybe it's because I just wanted to be like them. I didn't think that I was sexually attracted to them. At that point, I wasn't thinking about doing things with them that I saw in porn.
Right.
I knew that I liked boys, and this is hysterical. I first came out to my parents at like 10 or 11 about liking boys, and now it's hysterical. What? Because one of my therapists said at one point, my therapist from like some years ago said, straight kids, when they're young, they don't ask themselves if they're straight because they're just quote unquote normal, you know. And so I was like 10 and telling my parents, hysterically crying, that I liked a boy.
No.
And they were like, okay, like, aww, we don't want you to do anything with this boy, but like, that's okay, Lee, like, that's normal. And I was like, I don't want to like him. I was hysterical.
Oh no.
I came hysterically. I was devastated. Like, they found me crying hysterically. Like, I remember we were at a summer vacation home that we used to go to in Wildwood, New Jersey. And I remember I was like writing in my diary about how much I liked this boy that I was missing over the summer. And I was just crying about it because I was so grossed out by the fact that I liked this boy. And then they found me crying. They're like, what's wrong? I'm like, I don't want to tell you. It was a combination of, they scared the hell out of me about not having a boyfriend. And so I was scared to admit that I liked a boy.
Wait.
My mom specifically, my parents, but more my mom, my Dominican mother, was so strict about not having a boyfriend, not letting boys touch me, not doing anything with boys, that she got it in my head that it was bad to like a boy.
I see.
So it was a combination of that. And also, I was just grossed out that I liked a boy, because I hated boys until I was like, you go through those toddler phases of hating boys, and then even like first, second grade hating boys. And then here I am, like third, fourth grade, like, ew, I have all these crushes and I'm gross. Like, I just hysterically crying about it. And they were like, oh my God, it's okay. Like, we don't want you to do anything with boys. We don't want them to touch you. We don't want you touching them. But it's really okay. It's normal. And I was just hysterical about it. So that was like learning about sex and what I like, just the curiosity, the confusion of it all. And then cut to high school. I'm like 16 or 17. I have my high school sweetheart, which I would be with for 2 years. Spoiler alert, we would end up being prom king and queen because we were adorable. But 16, 17, I'm like a cheerleader. I'm part of like the gay straight alliance that I started, that me and a group of people started for the first time.
Marsha P. Johnson.
Yes, we started the first one in Westchester because I was in performing arts. There was a lot of queer students. They didn't feel like they had a home. We created one.
This is high school.
High school.
Oh, interesting.
In fact, my principal was a hard ass, because when I wanted to start the gay straight alliance, he was basically like, no. And I was like, you don't have the right to say no.
What, did he ever specify why?
No, he didn't. He said something like it would be controversial with parents. I was like, I don't care. So I went over his head and asked like the board of ed. And I just went completely over his head and approved. It got approved. And we like changed everything. And he hated me for it. Yeah. That's a whole other story. I was like at war in school for my senior year. It was constant war battlegrounds for me. But whatever. So things were fairly queer in my school, being half performing arts, half business school. And also being it was a diverse school, but it was mostly Black and Spanish school. And growing up in New York, maybe growing up anywhere, in those communities, it's not exactly the most welcoming, popular thing to be any kind of queer. And so we were,
or any kind of
we
different.
were doing something, any kind of different. We were doing something groundbreaking because we had Spanish, Black, white, immigrant, queer kids that were like, yeah, I want to have a club. I want to have
like you had a coalition.
It was like fucking amazing. We were doing something really, really big. And a lot of that started from me being like, I do like girls. Like I have a boyfriend. I loved my boyfriend, but I do also like girls. And a lot of my friends were bi or gay, lesbian, whatever. And me being awkward in the locker room, I was like, bitch, just admit it. You like girls. Like, so I think one of the first people I actually told it was my group of friends in high school that were queer and that were happily out and proud, and also my boyfriend at the time, because I didn't know what his reaction was going to be.
Wait, he was out and proud?
No, he was straight.
Oh, okay.
He is straight. But I was like, what is his reaction going to be? Because I'm with him. Is he going to think that I cheated? Is he going to think,
He's probably going to think it's cool.
I told him, like, I'm bi, and he was just like, okay. He's like, wait, do you want to, like, go be with a girl now? And I was like, no, like, I'm with you. I love you, but I need you to know that I am attracted to girls. Like, and he was like, okay. Like, as long as we're not cheating or anything. Like, he was very cool about it.
Very understanding.
And then, yeah. And like my friends, obviously, who were queer, it was all totally accepted. Sabrina at the time, she was also out as bi.
So she was, I don't remember.
Yeah, she came out as bi in high school. And we were like, okay, so look, we have even more in common. Like, everything was fine. My parents, who raised me around their queer friends my entire life. I grew up in uptown Manhattan. And they had queer friends that would come to the house and have dinner parties. We would go to their houses and have dinner parties. They took me as a kid to the pride parades. I had a very queer-friendly household. So I'm just a happy camper about to sit down at dinner and tell my folks, like, hey, by the way, I'm bi. Anyway, can you pass the potatoes? And that is not what happened.
They passed the green peas instead of the potatoes.
They passed judgment. So I'm like, hey guys, I just want you to know.
This wasn't like a dinner party with other people.
No,
it
was literally
intimate,
just
mom, dad, you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And my mom is like finishing things up in the kitchen. My dad's sitting at the table. I sit at the table, and I'm like, hey, Ma, can you come in here for a minute? Just want to like have a conversation with you guys. And I say, so I just want you to know, like, I am bisexual, and I assume that they don't really know exactly what that means, because even though they raised me around queer communities, like, their friends were gay or lesbian,
Right.
And so my mom was a bit confused. And I was like, I'm happy with, I'm going to say his name because he wouldn't care. I'm happy with Troy in this relationship, but, I am also attracted to girls, and I just want you to know that. And my dad is like, I figured.
Dads, give it up for dads being just so chill.
Just fucking chill. I figured, and he just keeps eating.
Maybe him and my dad just sit in a room.
I was like, great, know?
Awesome.
And then my mom goes back to the kitchen and continues doing whatever she's doing.
Oh, the silent treatment.
And she was kind of like, well, I don't understand what any of that means. And I was like, I just told you. It means I'm also attracted. She still doesn't
want to understand.
Right. It means I'm also attracted to women. It means I'm attracted to more than just one gender. It means I'm attracted to others as well. And I don't remember the back and forth because none of it was nice. But she says something like, well, I didn't see this coming. This is very unexpected. And she said the worst thing you could say to someone. She said, I just think you're too pretty to be gay. And that felt like a sword went into my chest.
What an odd choice of words.
Yeah. What a cruel choice of words.
That too. I'm more perplexed by it because immediately I think, well, what do you think gay people
and she let me know just all kinds of false stereotypes that she had in mind. And I was like, what a hypocrite. Like, you have gay friends. You raised me around a gay community. Why would it be weird if I'm queer? It was so not what I was expecting.
Yeah, especially considering the background that you just stated of...
Exactly. And it was very not in my house kind of a vibe. It was very not my own daughter kind of a situation. And it would start like a forever long war because, you know, once I had my first girlfriend, I don't know, maybe I was like 20 or something like that. I just like wasn't welcomed at home. And so for the first, like,
did she ever made that very abundantly clear that you weren't?
Oh yeah, she did. Like I was basically kicked out from my early 20s. I was like a stray. So in my early 20s, I only dated women. There was a point in time from about 20 to 23 or 24 where I called myself fully a lesbian. I had absolutely zero interest in men. And it was a combination of working in the nightlife and being just very put off by them and being in love with a woman, you know? And so
when I was kind of introduced to you or reintroduced, met you in high school, but then once we started becoming adults, in my mind, I was like, oh yeah, she's a lesbian.
Yeah,
That's
I
how
identified
kind of
as a lesbian for a few years. And I was not welcomed at home. My mom had become a flight attendant. And so when she was out, I would be home hanging out with my dad. We had an incredible bond. This bonded us so deeply because I was able to tell him all of the things. I was able to share all of my secrets and all of my adventures with him that I could not share with my mother, which is important that we had that because he did pass away when I was 25. So I love that we did get to have that bond at least.
Was there ever any pushback from your dad? Not necessarily pushback. I think pushback is a harsh term. But when you would share your stories, whether it was like I went out on a date or whatever,
no,
he was always either encouraging or
he was always so accepting, so loving.
So nice.
He was the ideal parent for a queer kid, you know? And my mom being a flight attendant, it was like, okay, well, we don't have to see each other, you know? So we barely did for many years because whatever relationship I was in, I just kind of moved in with them, sort of.
Right,
you know,
just a roommate.
which put insane pressure on my relationships that I didn't realize until later down the line because I didn't know how to live on my own and I did not know how to be an adult. So just kind of putting myself into their spaces and not really doing and contributing much, not knowing how to share a space in a relationship in an apartment, you know, like it put a lot of pressure on my relationships and me. And so that was, like I kind of do blame my mother for that. Like she made my dating life very difficult in my 20s.
She was another cog in that machine.
Yeah, her and I were not the same from when I was like 16, 17 when we had that conversation. We were not the same for a long time. It took after my dad passing for us to really rebond. And then my last girlfriend that was probably like, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago, I thought things would be different. And she happened to meet her when I was bartending. She came in to drop off lunch for me, like surprisingly. And my girlfriend at the time was sitting at the bar. And I tried to like introduce them. My mom immediately knew that that was my girlfriend. Immediately.
They always know. Like you said earlier, moms
she just knew. And she was instantly rude. And I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Still? So between my mom's attitude towards the women I've dated and towards me loving women, and the tumultuous relationships that I did have with ex-girlfriends, I realized how much comfort I had in the last few years and how much I really did try and want to be straight, as upsetting as that is to admit now. I really did try, especially my last relationship. I wanted to live a heteronormative life because I thought it would be easier and more acceptable. And my mother loved my last relationship so much because I was with an older man, just like her and my dad, and he was financially stable and successful, and we lived in a house, and we should have been popping out kids and living happily ever after, except that I was miserable and came back to the root and being like, I fucking love women. And now we have to leave that at a place where it's like, I think my mother knows that I'm dating women again. We don't talk about it. We don't live together anymore. It's very like, you know, my next relationship, she's going to have to fucking deal with it or not. And unfortunately, like my family doesn't really know that I'm queer because of her, because I didn't want to come out to them and upset her. and put her in a weird position.
Right.
So it definitely drives a wedge between me and my family because they don't know that's this part of my life. But my next relationship, I'm not going to, not that I really hid in the past, but maybe a little bit, but my next relationship, I'm not hiding at all. Like, if you don't accept it, don't come to my house.
Yeah.
And that's very it. But yeah, it's been a tumultuous roller coaster for me.
And it still seems like it's not necessarily still tumultuous, but it's certainly tricky to navigate.
Yeah.
Right now. Or going forward, rather.
Yeah.
Because we'll find out once that next relationship comes into play.
We'll find out.
And see how that plays out.
But yeah, because I'm reached a point in my life where I can protect it at all costs.
Right, yeah.
No, if no one likes it, they don't have to come over, period.
That's so crazy. It's something you said earlier that really struck a chord when you said there was some point where you thought being straight would just be easier. And I think...
Yeah.
Well, not every, because that's a general statement, but I would think a lot, myself included, of people of the community, gay, bi, straight, well, not straight, but all of us of the rainbow, have thought of some point of how easier life would be had it been a choice.
Right.
I think about it. I still think about it sometimes a lot.
Yeah.
Where it just crosses my mind of like, yeah, if I were straight,
things would just be easier.
It'd be easier. I'd be married. I'd have kids by now. I'd probably be in a lot of debt. Who knows? Yeah, it would be one less thing to concern myself about in ways that exist today.
Yeah.
Like our rights now are in question.
Always being questioned. It's just easier navigating the world as a heterosexual or
because it's one less thing you don't have to think about, kind of like what you touched base on earlier. When you're straight, there's never a coming out story. There's never a moment when you think,
you don't
I'm
question
straight.
it.
And I can not rely on that. I can reference that, like going back to when I was a child, before I found out what gay was. I didn't think much of it either. I didn't think there was anything wrong or questionable of the fact that I was attracted to the same sex as a kid.
Yeah.
It never crossed my mind. But also the way that I guess rationalize it as an adult now, like looking back, was like, well, I was always a quiet kid. I was never the type to be like, Mom, I like this boy in school. I was never that person. I was always very kept to myself.
Yeah.
And so throughout that, I guess I still had that innocence to not feel different. Mm-hmm. And so I was never made to feel different. And then when everything else rack focuses of just like, this is what this is now. Where do you stand?
Yeah.
And that's where I draw the line of the sand of like, well, if it's a choice, I don't want to do it. Why would I want to do this?
I know.
Why would I want to do this? It makes no sense.
It's hard. And then I think sometimes I'm like, well, would I choose men? I don't know. But choosing women, let me tell you something. For any ladies who are like, you know what, I'm so sick of men, I'm just going to be a lesbian. Let me be clear. A lesbian, a woman, will dog walk you worse than any man ever could. Okay? The cunning intelligence of a woman is absolutely terrifying. So whatever you think a man could do would be fucked up. And obviously this is clearly, I'm talking violence aside. Remove violence from the equation. Whatever mentally fucked up thing you think a man can do, a woman can do 10 times worse. So I do not condone women being like, I'm going to choose women. I'm like, are you sure?
Is it really ever a choice, though?
It's not. It's not a choice.
I
There's
think
just women that are sick of men who would love to be lesbians. And I get it. I fucking get it.
And there are gay men who don't want to be gay, and then the whole lavender marriage thing is like coming up again.
That's what we need to do. We just need to be a lavender marriage.
I want a man. Sorry, no offense, ladies.
Same. I don't want to live with a man. I want to live with a woman. But my latest battle is like, how do I define? Because people ask me more often now, and I'm like, define it, like my label, and I'm like, I like queer because it's an umbrella term. Mm-hmm. I can't say that I'm a lesbian because I still do find some men attractive. It's just really few and far between. Like, checking boxes is an understatement. They have to check a stupid amount of boxes for me to find them attractive.
Well, it was interesting because the more we've talked about it, about your bisexuality is the more that it's opened up my eyes of the term, right? Because I've never questioned
and
wanting to change.
bi-romantic.
Exactly. By wanting to change and and trying and feeling something are two separate things. I've never felt anything for women in a sexual way.
Right.
So I've always been gay, never questioned that outside of wanting to change that.
Yeah.
And so bisexuality to me was always something very confusing because I never understood how the dynamics worked. Like, is it something that kind of like I have a craving for chocolate from time to time? Do you just scratch that itch? And it's not, obviously, because
but it really comes down to the person,
right?
And those damn boxes that we want to check.
And that's the more perplexing thing to me, because when you explain to me how your bisexuality works or is defined or how you see it, like you said, you're biromantic. So correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I'm not. I don't even consider myself bisexual anymore because I don't want to have sex. I don't want to date men. I don't want to really have sex with men. I want to only date women. I want a relationship with a woman. I do still find some men attractive, though, and I can't ignore that.
Sexually?
So I don't feel like it's right to call myself a lesbian.
Right.
But I've left bisexual behind. I'm just a little too gay to be bi. That's where I'm at right now. And so it's tricky to navigate that. I learned that I am not biromantic because I feel romantic feelings towards women, and it's so hard for me to get there with men. I think I have in the past. It's hard for me to stay there with men. To keep
that momentum.
To keep that in-love feeling. It just doesn't last.
Interesting.
Where with women, I am like, when I have a girlfriend, I'm like obsessed. Like, I'm just obsessed with her. I'm obsessed with the fact that I want a girlfriend. You know what I mean? Even though I'm not ready at this moment right now, I am like dating, but I know that I would be obsessed with my wife forever. Where like a man, I'm like, I don't want you in my house.
Get out of my house.
Get out of my house. Like, even if I do find them attractive and I want to have sex with them, it's probably, for me, being addict minded, it's probably because I'm craving a dopamine hit. And men to me now, I realize, sex with men to me now, I realize is a very fun sport. It is a fun sport that I'm good at, and I like to play that sport sometimes. And then like, high five, bye, good game.
Get out.
Yeah, like that was it. That was fun. And that's not even a sport I feel like playing lately. So yeah,
so
I don't
like
know
chocolate.
how to define. I'm
you
just
get a
calling
craving
myself
for it. You're like, all right, let's whip out the chocolate and I go back into the fridge.
I'm
Bye.
just calling myself queer now. I think that's it. Even though the government removed that term.
Did they?
They removed TQIA. It's just LGB.
So my dyslexia is like.
So the government has decided that a lot of us just don't exist anymore.
Interesting. Well, I'm still a homo.
Good for you. Samesies, pretty much. Sometimes, mostly.
And hopefully you're still a homo.
Hopefully you are. Whatever you are.
Yeah,
hopefully you're here and
be.
learning things. Yeah. And we have more to talk about on another episode.
Yeah. So how do we end this?
Goodbye.
Thank you for watching. We put out new episodes every Tuesday on Spotify. And new visual episode every Friday right here on YouTube. And please like, comment, and subscribe. Until then, goodbye.